G'day guys, and welcome back to Stitch Up and another flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Today we're going to be flying over the world's second highest mountain peak, K2. So why don't you enjoy the Stitch Up intro, and I'll see you in just a sec. Okay, we click into the world map and let's start off with the plane that we're going to go in. So I've upgraded the plane from the last few flights. So today we're going to be flying in, well, the turboprops are just not fast enough. So we're going to get into our only jet available, the Textron Aviation Cessna Citation CJ4. And I think this is a widely produced plane. And yeah, we're going to jump into this one. I think I can handle it. It's okay. Max altitude 45,000 feet. We're actually going to be looking at about 25,000 feet today to go around the crown of K2, and yeah, we'll be doing so. Okay, so let's select that plane. And then let's get our airports together. So the airport we're going to go off, we're going to take off and land from the same airport today, and the first that is going to be Skaru. Now Skaru Airport is in Pakistan, and we'll have a look here. But basically, yeah, we're going to do that. If we just zoom out a little bit here, I should be able to see. So the Himalayan mountain range is kind of here. There's the Himalayas coming right across there. Mount Everest is over here. I think you'll see, where is it? There's a few different things. You've got Nepal around here, India. This is the continent of India just here. And you've got China up here. So Nepal just bordering those two. Pakistan's over here. We are in Pakistan at the moment, near again the border of China. And K2 sits over there. So this Himalayan range. K2's not in the Himalayas. It's in a different range called the Karakorams. Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that mountain range as we fly over them. So, taking off from Skaru, and let's go back into Skaru, and then we can see how that goes. And then the only other thing I want to do is just the time of day. So I'm thinking we need a nice afternoon flight. Let's go for 16:45 or thereabouts, local time. So we'll see about that one and see how that goes. Okay, I think we're ready to fly in, and let's jump straight into the plane. Okay, here we are. We're at Skaru. It's doing a couple of shots for us here. Local time is 4:45 in the afternoon, and we are in our CJ4, and we're ready to go. So let's go here. Alright, so this runway runs into the northwest, so we'll be taking off into the northwest, so north is up here. Once we've done that, we're going to be turning, so we're actually going to be, in fact, let me bring up, I won't bring up the VFR map, but we're going to be basically making a right-hand turn, and we're going to be heading into the northeast, and we'll actually get a bit of altitude to make our turn, and we'll have a look at some of the other mountains and see if we can navigate our way to K2. I'm hoping we don't get lost. I've done a bit of research on how to get there from Skaru, and we'll see. I'm not super familiar with this plane, so I've done a couple of test flights with it. Bear with me if we get some alarms, which we're bound to get. Okay, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to initiate by taking off the parking brake. I think it's just been taken off there, which is nice. Well, we don't get a signal, but we'll soon see when I throttle up those engines. So if I throttle these engines up, we should start to roll forward, and we are rolling forward, so the parking brake was disengaged. Let those engines idle for a bit, and then we'll get them right up. Just tilt up a little bit. We'll come back down shortly. So let's get the engines warmed up, and we'll bring them right forward. And there we go. So we'll leave a little bit in there as well. Just checking the rudder there, fixing up slightly, and let's look at getting ourselves up into the air. When we get to about 80, we'll start to pick up. Okay. And now we're up into the air. 115 knots for takeoff. Oh, I didn't know that. I think we're at about 105. Okay, so I might just go back down to here, raise up the landing gear, and let's keep the flaps in that position until we get ourselves a little bit of altitude. Again, we're still heading northwest, but again, we're sitting, Skaru sits in this valley. If I have a look here, you can see Skaru back behind us, but it sits inside this massive valley with this big river that goes through it, glacial river. And yeah, this river is, basically, so we're already sitting at 7,000 meters, I think, before we even take off above sea level. No, sorry, 7,000 meters? No, 7,000 feet above sea level, sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here and say acknowledge frequency change. Thank you very much. Lovely, so that's him. Okay, so that's all nice. We're up in the air. Now you can already see there's a peak directly ahead of us. So I'm heading bearing at almost heading back to north. And so let's see. That peak directly ahead, we're going to head towards it, get a bit of height, and then we'll start to bank off and make some other changes. So let's just zoom around, have a bit of a look at our plane, and it's quite good. Okay, we're at about 13,000 feet at the moment, so we're all in feet at the moment, but we're going to be talking about 8,000 as in meters when we talk 8,000 as when we talk about these mountains. So yeah, let's just let's get our bearings correct, and then we'll do that. So yeah, this could all be quite good. Nice little sun is sitting just there above the horizon. Oh, we seem to have banked over there, so let's get ourselves up a bit. Okay, around 15,000 feet we're going to be making our sort of first turn, and again, the prominence above these mountains isn't that much, because we're actually, these mountains rise up quite a bit, but we're talking about how much above sea level there. If you look at the altitude, airspeed about 150, which is nice. If we go too high, the air's going to be thinner, we're going to go a lot faster, but also I think as well, when we try and decrease our altitude, we've got to do it carefully, because we might find there's some problems with gaining too much speed. Just going to change the flap situation, so they're in a 0 degrees position. Okay, this mountain directly ahead of us, if I can just show you that mountain peak directly ahead of us, this is what is the name of this? I wrote this one down. This is called B21. So these mountains all have particular codes and names. This one is Peak B21, Bravo 21, and yeah, it's not super tall, but it's prominent for the region. So I'm using that mountain as a marker, and once we get there, we will come across the face of it and make this gentle right-hand turn. Just back off on the throttle there for a bit. Okay. And yeah, you can see only about 500 meters above this ridge here, but yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we're now heading beyond north, so we've come over north, so north is kind of directly over here. This is all China that we'll be looking into now, and you know, my pointer on the map is pointing us back to land at Skaru, but we are going to be doing a few navigations, a few turns, and then we'll be heading back to Skaru. Let me see here, so flaps are at 0 and we're looking pretty good. Okay, so just for navigation from my own point, I've got a river to cross. We're basically going to be heading, we need to be heading northeast to get to K2, and this is pretty much our heading is northeast at the moment at 040 degrees. So that's all pretty good. Just checking all this. Let's have a look at what it looks like for the pilots. If you look at it from there, we're climbing slightly. So I might just see, and you can see that we're up at 22,000 meters. Again, we need to be at about 20. We need to be, well, the peak is around 26,000 meters for K2. Sorry, feet. This is feet, not meters, feet. So we need to be at around 26,000 feet to get into there, into K2. And that'll keep us up with the peak, so we'll see about that. We might actually do some low passes. Don't want to go too close to the mountain because I want us to be able to see it. So Microsoft Flight Simulator does render K2 a bit awkwardly. There are a few other mountains that sit around it. They render really, really well, but K2 doesn't. So I'm hoping that at some stage they do a mountain pack and they jump in and do the 20 most famous mountains in the world: the Matterhorn, Everest, K2, you know, Kilimanjaro, all these mountains, but they render them really accurately, like they've done with United Kingdom, with the USA pack, all that sort of stuff. So we did pass that very first river, which is just down below us there. You can see there's Skaru. So we come out of this valley. I think the peak directly below my tail is, sorry, directly above or directly below my tail now is that B21 navigational peak. And we come over this range and there is a second river. Now, right beyond the second river, so there's a second river running along here. Just going to start to drop our altitude a little bit now, because, and our airspeed as well. Let's get that down a little bit and let's start cruising through. Now we want to make good time, but what we want to do is just generally, I've let myself go up a little bit too much and gain a bit too much altitude. So this second river is our next navigation point. So we had B21 mountain, then a river and a river. Directly beyond that, you can see in this valley here, you can start to see some grey here. Now this is the main glacier that runs pretty much the main feature that runs through the Karakoram mountain range over here. Yeah, this glacier is called, now it's called the Balturo Glacier. It is the biggest glacier in the world that is not in one of the polar caps. So it's the biggest non-polar glacier in the world, and that is it there. So there are multiple glaciers that run off it, and a lot of them run off it at right angles, but this Balturo Glacier is something that we're going to definitely use as a navigation. And in fact, there's a good view of the Balturo Glacier there, because what we can see is it's coming out there. So you'll see all these peaks are running into it with sub-glaciers, and then this one is coming through here. Interestingly, the glacier does move. It's not moving in that direction though. It's actually moving up screen at the moment. We're still climbing. Let me just jump down a little bit. It's actually moving up screen, so it flows this way. K2 is one of the points at which this glacier begins and is formed, and K2 is one of its main things that forms it, one of its main bodies of water supply that would form it. Okay, I'll just line up some navigation here, and what we can actually see over here, if I move my cursor, it's a funny one, but right where the blue is, right there where it says 28 nautical miles, that's my marker to show me where to get back to the airport. That's K2 directly ahead of us. So what we want to do is we want to actually, I want to actually get into this glacier and get around and basically follow it all the way to K2. So funny enough, this glacier here is a different one. The Balturo is this one that comes across and it comes through here and goes up this ridge there. So let's do that. Let's come down to about 24,000. Sorry, I'll need to concentrate here. We'll come down to about 24,000. We'll drop some speed. Let's drop it a bit of speed as we go down. Make our way down to 24,000, and we'll follow the Balturo, which is this one here, up to the Mount Godwin-Austen Glacier. And the Mount Godwin-Austen Glacier is the marking point for where K2 is. When you trek in, when you trek to, it's about 5 days to trek what we've just flown here in the last few minutes. It's about 5 days to get from Skaru as a starting point into the K2 and the Mount Godwin-Austen Glacier, and you basically once you get up to this, you then once you get up to this Balturo Glacier, that's the one you follow all the way along. So climbers on K2, let's talk about K2. So it's the second highest mountain in the world, and it is also it's one of, well, obviously there are 14 8,000ers, and the 8,000ers are mountains that are higher than 8,000 meters. Again, it's about 26,000 feet for K2. So this one is 8,600 and I think 11 meters, 8611, yeah, and Everest is 8,884 or something like that. So Everest is about 200 higher, and yeah, you'll see, yeah, so K2, the reason we're going to K2, I've been watching a few documentaries, and K2 is a very interesting mountain. I do like seeing it. It's funny, I'm trying to talk about the mountains, which is what I wanted to do in the flight, but it's also, I've got to remember how to fly because I'm in a very unfamiliar plane. But here's the Balturo Glacier, you can see there. So in real life, not in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but in real life, this glacier continues all the way along. It doesn't really dry up like this at all. It's just being rendered a bit odd, but that's completely fine. Yeah, what else can we say about K2? Well, we can talk about the Karakoram mountain range, which is the range that we're in. And in fact, let's have a quick look over there. Let me see. Yeah, K2, there's K2 directly ahead and on the left. So as we get to the very top of the glacier, we would take a very sharp left-hand 90-degree turn. If we were on the glacier, we would see that it's almost like a right angle street the way it lines up, and you can see here some of these glaciers. I'll just see if I can get above us. Yeah, you can see here that, see how the glacier goes straight up and then these other ones come off it at 90 degrees. This is a really prominent feature of the Karakoram range, and you can see this. It is quite spectacular for the climbers because they, as they trek in, you know, 80. They might have a group of 20 or so climbers, but as they trek in, I just need to get my airspeed right down. As they trek in, if it's a group of 20 climbers, you might have 400 or 500 porters that help you carry all your stuff to the Mount Godwin-Austen Glacier, which is K2 base camp. And so basically they don't see it like we're seeing it. So we're seeing K2 here rise up. It rises up on four sides. It's a four-sided kind of pyramid-shaped mountain. Notably, Mount Everest rises up on three faces, three different sides. Yeah, this one, I'm just going to try and slow down yet again. When you get to base camp, the glacier sits right below the mountain. So literally the mountain and the glacier sit next to each other, and you literally camp at the very base of it. And then you have a short trek. In actual fact, short trek, but it's about 2 hours just across the glacier a little bit more, and you trek that 2 hours to the very start of the ridge that you'll climb, and we'll talk a bit more about the ridge. Again, I just want to show you a couple of other features in the area. So if we have a quick look around here, so there are 4 8,000 meter peaks in the Karakoram range. K2 is this one here, the one we're on the trip today to see, and we'll talk about that in a sec. This one's Broad Peak, the third highest peak in the Karakoram range, and then the Gasherbrum over here. So this will be the second. So K2, then the Gasherbrum, and then Broad Peak. Gasherbrum has 7 or 8 peaks on it. They're all listed as individual mountains, which is kind of odd. I think it's this whole thing. So Gasherbrum 1, and then you've got Gasherbrum 6 over here, or 4, I think it might be over here. And then you've got like Gasherbrum 2, Gasherbrum 3, yeah. So all of these other this whole mountain, Gasherbrum over here, is very tall as well. So you're looking at 8,000 meters. Now, how are we going? We're about 25,000 feet. We're coming into, so this glacier here is the Mount Godwin, the Godwin-Austen Glacier. I don't know why I keep saying Mount Godwin-Austen, but I think it's just the Godwin-Austen Glacier. I don't know if it's the mount, yeah, that was from a named after an explorer. Okay, so let's fly around and have a look. We are at about 24,000 feet now, so that's a nice one. We've come to the right angle of the Balturo Glacier and the Godwin-Austen just here, right, literally here. So we'll make that turn now and just see how we go. Let's do some flying. We've got the Gasherbrums directly in front of us. When I make the turn, we might end up going between the Gasherbrum and the Broad Peak here. Broad Peak is so called because the top of the mountain in real life just has rises up to very, very high prominence off the glacier, but then, or the glacier, I want to say glacier because I live over in the UK now and we say glacier, but yeah, Broad Peak rises up, and then all the peak stays up quite a distance for and that's so why it's got its name, Broad Peak. we're actually going to run into Broad Peak here if I don't make another turn, and I just want to see about this. Now, Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't render these mountains very well and wants to put, it does faces like over here on the Gasherbums, but instead of doing it like that, what it does do sometimes is it does it a bit like this, a volcano, with a sort of caldera, I guess. This is not how it is. It doesn't have this massive kind of caldera like you could see, like what looks like a volcano. Ooh, let's get ourselves a little bit more engine power, please. Thank you very much. Yeah, it just the way it renders the game, so that's fine. It's a bit of a shame because on K2 I want to go round K2 and we'll have a look at it, and then so we'll do a circuit of it. We'll try and stay a bit of distance away from it. All these mountains flow into these other glaciers, and then the glaciers all then flow into the Balturo, and that is a huge water source for China, and especially over in the other surrounding countries as well, Kyrgyzstan, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so let's just see. Of course, K2 is considered to be the most difficult mountain to climb in the world because it creates its own weather very differently from all the other peaks around it. It has its own weather systems. It is the only mountain in the region to actually touch the atmospheric line as well. So it gets into the atmosphere. It's actually affecting the atmosphere. Watching where we're going. Let's just line up so we know what we're doing. Yeah, we're flying over some of these peaks here, so just being a bit careful. I mean, it's not the end of the world if we crash, but I wouldn't mind it if we didn't crash on this flight. Everything seems to be going pretty well at the moment. Yeah, and there's the sun going behind K2. Isn't it absolutely lovely? Can I get a screenshot of some of this stuff? I think I can. Let's just do a few screenshots while we're there. And yeah, you might find this is the good old... You might find even that some of this is part of the screenshot. I'm trying to hide our lovely little signals there, but I think I'll need to do it just a little bit further when this thing telling me where our airport is pretty much away. That's quite good as well. So these are all quite good ones. Isn't that lovely? Yeah, that is lovely actually. Let's do a few of these. Spin in. Yep. Okay, and yeah, let's keep making a bit of another left-hand turn, head back to that Balturo Glacier. This could be quite nice. Yeah, K2, very deadly mountain to climb. So mountaineers quite often will climb up this one and get caught out. To make a summit bid, you need to get to Camp 4 and have acclimatized. And to get to Camp 4, you need to have gone back up and down to 1, then 2, then back down, 1, then 2, then 3, and then 3 down to 2, and do all those acclimatization activities. Yeah. Got obviously I don't know if it's thin air here or just the fact that I'm basically I let the engines really rev down there, and we have some mountains around us, so let's keep a little bit of power on us. You can actually see me in the plane there sitting in there. So yeah, so we'll talk about the route up K2. So if we have a look at the Godwin-Austen Glacier, so let's just see here. So there is the Balturo, and I think this is the Godwin-Austen just here. Yes, it is. So we might see if we can do a bit of a turn this way, and just have a look at the climbing route to the top of K2. Now, climbers up K2 generally take something called the Abruzzi Spur, and the Abruzzi Spur is a ridge. The Abruzzi Ridge is a ridge that goes all the way up K2 to the summit. It's the most climbed part of the route. There are about 4 different climbing routes up K2, and they all converge at a part around Camp 4, Camp 4, called the Bottleneck. And at the very top of this area. So you get this camp, the other routes all converge, and you get this. It's so called the bottleneck because during climbing season, everyone is kind of all bunched up together, and they have to make their summit bids and somewhat synchronize. Notably, you can only climb K2 for between 3 and around 5 to 10 days of the year, and that's it for climbing windows. You may not get any others. You don't generally get it, but yeah, this is the Abruzzi Spur Ridge here. I don't know how well it's rendering it, but I did have a look at Google Earth and it was looking pretty good. But yeah, the Goldwyn-Austen Glacier here. This is base camp directly below us for K2. Am I going to hit the mountain? I'm not. So the Goldwyn-Austen directly below us, base camp, you can trek, and that's the ridge there, and you'd have this basically. Let's have a quick look behind us. Yeah, this ridge here. So you would climb all the way up on this ridge here. Let's just tip our nose up a little bit. Ooh, that is not good flying. Yep. Now around here, above Camp 4, there's the thing called the bottleneck, and then there's a massive thing called a serac, and this is basically a big piece of ice that overhangs. This famously has caused lots and lots of deaths. I'm actually going to route us back home to the airports, back to Skaru now, so we'll head back there. Just looking to see, facing south at the moment, got quite a turn going on here, and I'm climbing, which is not good. Can we stop climbing? But yeah, the deaths on K2, 2008, they had lots and lots of deaths from a group of climbers who summited and then had huge troubles getting down. So a couple of people literally rope snapping, a couple of people dropping from the top of the mountain down onto the glacier behind, which is awful. People trying to rescue them getting wiped out by the serac, overhanging serac, and this serac here. That sits at the top of K2, this big piece of ice, just drops stuff on them and just wipes them out. It's solid ice and rock. Oh, let's get a bit more power, please. Yep, stall. I get that. We could almost land on the top of this one. Let's quickly find out where we are too. This peak here. Where are we? Is this K2 there? So is this Broad Peak here? Let's just have a quick look. Wow, this is a nice little, that is a nice, see, they rendered the top of this one beautifully. This may be Gasherbrum, I think. Let's have a quick look. I'll be able to tell it, the Goldwyn-Austen here. Yeah, this is actually Broad Peak. So this one here, the peak, you can see here's the peak. It runs all the way across and is quite level in real life as well. We are really picking up some speed here. So let me drop back down as we lose a bit of altitude and just look straight ahead. That's all beautiful. That is good. Good. K2, Broad Peak, and the Gasherbrum's directly over there. So we nearly landed on Broad Peak just then. I actually thought as well, the glacier looks like you can land on it, but in real life you definitely couldn't. It's quite massive amounts of rocks and stuff. Let's get back to Balturo, just over here, the Balturo Glacier. Head back down towards the sun and head straight towards the airport. But you can't actually land on the glaciers either. They're all a bit crazy for landing. Yeah. So basically, what else was I going to mention? Was I going to mention anything else? No. As we're flying back, let's just talk about a couple of things that are happening on the channel. So we're back into Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm currently updating our system with the new London or the new United Kingdom and Ireland pack, and so that'll be on there. So this changes the way things look in the game. I think they've added in much more detailed parts of the cities. So London will have lots of that. So we'll be doing a few more flights. In Microsoft Flight Simulator. I actually want to do a flight over Everest as well. I think that could be good. I was thinking a flight into and over and through past Machu Picchu could be quite nice. So I think if we could keep going on the mountaineering theme, I think that could be good. And I think as well, if we could go, I reckon it could be really nice if we could just going to pick up some speed here as we gun it back home. Watching the airspeed doesn't climb too much, but let's gun it back home. Yeah, now that we're over the glacier. Yeah, and also to go Mont Blanc, past Mont Blanc, could be lovely in northern Italy, the Swiss Alps in Europe, And then the other one that could be really good to go over as well is the Matterhorn. So there's quite a few mountains there that I look at doing, and I might brand these as a particular sort of mountain flights range. And if you have any other suggestions on any other mountains or topographical features that you want me to fly over and have a look at, then please leave them in the comments, and I would like to give you a shout out and do those flights. We did get a couple of comments from people on my previous flights in London, and they were back in my hometown of Melbourne, so obviously some friends watching, and we'll be doing those flights coming up as well, so that'll be really good. So please leave your comments down if you want me to fly over certain places, including your home or your city or whatever you like, and I'll definitely consider those and give the relevant shout outs. And if we have a look here, let me just top the nose down, keep us around 25,000. Looking directly behind us, K2 directly above the tail, Broad Peak directly above the tail, and the Gasherbrum directly above the tail. There's another mountain just here called Masherbrum. This is not an 8,000, it's about 7,500 meters. And this one is, yeah, that one is just over there. In this game, it actually looks like this mountain just here. This mountain is the Masherbrum, but it's actually one of these ones. It sits right directly opposite the Balturo Glacier. So yeah, that's all pretty good. What else? You can see one of these right angle turns onto the glaciers. These look quite cool. Again, I think Flight Simulator is doing a pretty good job of rendering all of those guys. Oh, and something I've just remembered as well. I've never landed in this plane. I've done a few test flights. I've been around K2. I think I've flown in this plane once before in another flight somewhere, just practicing, but I don't think I've landed in it, so this will be interesting when we get into land. Okay, and so I've just started to approach Skaru just there. You can see Skaru, that's the valley we took off. So we took off basically this way into the northeast, actually northwest. But yeah, we're sort of heading over here at the moment, sort of heading directly south, and I'm decreasing my altitude and decreasing my speed with various iterations here, just doing little patches of both, making sure I don't hit that speed limit, which is, you can see on the left hand side. The airspeed is sitting quite high. Okay, so I'm going to now just drop the flaps. It doesn't want the flaps down, so on this jet, no, I'm going to put the flaps back up actually. On this particular jet, it doesn't like the flaps being in a landing position without the gear being down, and I don't know how much I want to put the gear down. Where is it? 10 nautical miles. 10 miles. Yeah, so we'll see about this. Just looking at the way, so you've got the river. I think the runway is lining up this way. I've got to be careful here because you've got some mountain ranges. What we want to be doing here. Overspeed. Oh yeah, let's drop here. Let's see about this. Just going to start to drop my. I'm going to put those flaps down and get the landing gear down. See if that'll help us to slow down. It should drastically. Yeah, that is. So that should help us. Overspeed. There we go. Those flaps are catching the air net a bit better now. That'll help us to slow right down, and we have a look here. Now we have our speed sitting there. I need to, whoa, actually let's get those flaps sitting back into the middle. Whoops, sorry, back into that. Okay, let me see here. So airspeed is looking pretty good. I'm just waiting for this. I'm going to see if I can get myself a little bit more speed here. See where the engine's lining, where the runway is lining up. So looking pretty good. Sitting at about 9,000 feet altitude, but not too far above the ground actually. And you can see there as well Skaru, and I believe I can see the inclination of the the runway, so let's make this turn and see about this. Does sound like there's an alarm going off, but there's not. That is the engines whirring. Okay, so let's get the plane down in Skaru, and hopefully we can get all our lovely tourists who are on board for their flight over K2. These guys can all be safely back to their destination. Okay, let's see here. So we're lining up nicely. I'll have to be a little careful here. That river looks beautiful straight ahead. It is quite dark. I still think I need to do a few correcting moves here. Let me see. One thing I don't know how to do in this particular aircraft is brake. This could be really interesting. Line up for the runway, follow the guys. Okay, let's see about this. I don't know if... Okay, so we have landed on the field next to the runway. So quite clearly, one thing I need to do in this game is to work out... oh, geez, I really need to get the engines revving less. Thank you very much. I believe to stop it, I hit the Y. Reduce speed to 15 knots. Put the parking brake on. And we are now back at our airport, and let's consider that a landing. At least we didn't crash. So we're back in Skaru. So that is the end of this episode. That has been a flight over K2. Very ungraceful landing back in Skaru, but yeah, we flew over K2 and got to point out some important features like the Untitled Glacier and the Balturo Glacier, which is the main star of the show in my opinion. Spectacular. I do hope you've enjoyed that flight. Please leave a comment, let me know, and I will practice my landings a little bit better in this plane. Yeah, I'll see you in the next episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Cheers.